We're surrounded by wellness products, right? They all promise to make us feel better, sleep better, live better. But how do you cut through all that noise? How do you find what's actually true in a world that's so, well, subjective? Today, we're going to dig into a new framework that tries to build a truth engine for exactly that. It's the question we all ask ourselves, isn't it? You try some new supplement, a new patch, a new meditation app, and you're left wondering, is this really doing something, or am I just telling myself it is? Is it real, or is it just a placebo? I mean, seriously, how would you really know? Is a feeling enough? A story from your friend? We know our own memories can play tricks on us. What if, just what if, there was a way to get beyond believing something works and actually start knowing? So, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll talk about what I'm calling the wellness guessing game. Then, we'll get into the big problem with the whole trust me industry. After that, we'll introduce this truth engine, the NKAI framework. We'll even walk through a day in the life with it. And finally, we'll talk about how this whole idea could, maybe, put an end to wellness hype for good. Okay, first up, the wellness guessing game. This is pretty much the world we live in now, trying to get from these fuzzy feelings we have to something a bit more concrete, something based on actual facts. And this, right here, is the heart of it. Most of these products live in this gray area between you believing it works and having any real proof. You're just kind of stuck in the middle, wondering, okay, but did anything actually change for me? Without some kind of objective record, that question is almost impossible to answer. And that uncertainty leads us straight to the fundamental problem with how a lot of the wellness industry works. It's kind of built on this foundation of just trust me. And as we're about to see, stories and anecdotes, they're just not going to cut it. So let's break down the big flaws. For starters, you've got this huge bias towards glowing testimonials, right? The marketing is all about emotion, and that means there's almost zero objective measurement to back it up. But the real kicker? There's absolutely no long-term accountability. If a product works for a month and then stops, well, who's even tracking that? Nobody. This really shows the massive shift we need to make. We've got to get away from the old model of, trust me, I feel amazing, and move toward a new standard that says, look, here's the data. You decide for yourself. It's about putting the power back in your hands with real evidence. So how do we actually do that? How do we make that jump? Well, this is where the NK framework steps in. The whole idea is for it to act as a kind of truth engine that completely changes how we approach this stuff. Okay, before we go any further, let's be super clear about what this framework is not. It does not and cannot prove that product A caused result B. It's not here to validate medical claims, and it is absolutely 100% not a replacement for your doctor or for real clinical trials. Getting these boundaries straight is what makes the whole thing work. So then what does it do? 4 really important things. First, it sets up a baseline of your body's data before you even touch a product. Second, it's constantly and passively collecting data from a wearable, like your watch. Third, and this is key, it only compares you against yourself, your own before versus your own after. And finally, it saves all this data so it can't be changed. It creates a permanent record that's there for audit, not for persuasion. Now, you'll hear the word telemetry a lot here. It sounds technical, but it's simple. All it means is the automatic collection of data. Think of it like your Apple Watch just quietly sending your wellness stats, heart rate, sleep, activity, to the cloud. It's happening in the background without you having to lift a finger. And the process itself is really methodical. It's broken into 3 big phases. You start with a 90-day baseline period. That's 3 months of just collecting data to figure out what's normal for you. Then you have the 180-day intervention phase. That's when you're actually using the product. And after all that, the system gets to work, analyzing and comparing your before and after to see if there are any real stable changes. I know, that all sounds a little abstract, so let's make it real. Let's follow a hypothetical guy, we'll call him Chuck, and see what a normal day looks like when all this data is being collected passively in the background. So Chuck wakes up at 6:30. Boom. His sleep data for the night is already logged. He puts on his wellness patch at 9 and the system just notes the time. That's it. As he goes about his day, his activity patterns are recorded silently. He can check in later if he wants some context, but he doesn't have to. Then he goes to sleep and the whole cycle just starts over. See what's missing? There are no annoying dashboards, no charts to obsess over, no pressure. It's all just happening behind the scenes. And I love this part, how the system actually talks to you. The AI, which is called Max, is so careful with its words. It never says, hey, the patch is working. It gives you a really neutral, data-backed observation, and then it adds that critical line. This is one data point. It's basically training you to stop looking for daily miracles and start looking for long-term patterns. Here's the most important takeaway, I think. This system is completely neutral. It honestly doesn't care if you feel fantastic or terrible today. It just records what's actually happening with your body. So if you feel amazing, but your data shows your sleep was awful, Enkai just holds both of those things as true. It creates a much more complete and honest picture. So let's pull back for a second and look at the bigger picture here. This isn't just about one person or one product. This is about potentially changing the entire conversation around wellness and maybe, just maybe, ending the hype cycle for good. This table just lays it all out so clearly. Look at the difference. Most systems out there are motivated by getting you to believe, to convert. They use emotion and testimonials to persuade you. But the ENKI framework, it's motivated by truth and clarity. Its method is just data and patterns. And the result isn't persuasion. It's auditable evidence. We're talking about two completely different worlds. And this is so critical, it's worth saying again. The number of medical claims a system like this makes is a big, fat zero. Its power doesn't come from pretending to be a doctor. It comes from being a pure, neutral observer. When you get right down to it, the real product here isn't an app or a service. It's the integrity of the data itself. A system like this creates an environment where the truth just comes out. If a product has a real, stable, measurable effect on your body, the data will show it. And, just as importantly, if it doesn't do anything, the data will show that too. Which brings us to this final, pretty provocative thought from the source material. The idea is, you're not building a wellness product. You're building the infrastructure that ends wellness bullshit. A system like this is more than just another gadget. It's a foundational tool, a new standard for bringing some real accountability to an entire industry. And that leaves us with a big question. What would happen if that standard became the norm?